Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be learning all about the 1911 theft of Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. Now, I know I have talked a bit about this before. I've done an episode on Leonardo da Vinci and an episode on the Mona Lisa, but this theft is just so bananas. I felt like I had to do an episode all about it. I mean, as an art teacher, it is one of my favorite bits of art history because it's just such a ridiculous true story. Now, as always, before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. When the Mona Lisa vanished from the Louvre in Paris, investigators scrambled to find suspects. They started by considering what kind of person would steal such a great painting, and they quickly thought about the modern artists who were upending the art world at the time. One of the top men detained and interrogated by the French police was the legendary Spanish painter Pablo Picasso. What do you think? Was Pablo Picasso really a prime suspect in the theft of the Mona Lisa? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Our word for today is provenance. That's Provenance. Provenance refers to the chronology of ownership, custody, or location of a historical object or work of art. In museums and auction houses, provenance is the paper trail verifying an object's authenticity. It documents every sale, inheritance, transfer, or museum acquisition from the moment of creation to the present day. When an artwork doesn't have clear provenance, scholars are expected to investigate whether it was forged, looted, or stolen. The word provenance came to English from the French term provenance, which came from the Latin verb provenire, meaning to come forth or to originate. The Latin root combines pro, meaning forward, and venire, meaning to come. By the 19th century, art historians had adopted the term provenance to describe an artwork's lineage across centuries of collectors. Establishing unbroken provenance is the main tool for authenticating cultural treasures worldwide. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about the theft of the Mona Lisa. Number 1. Museum staff didn't actually know the Mona Lisa was missing until more than a day after it was taken. The theft occurred on Monday, August 21st, 1911, a day when the Louvre was closed for maintenance. The thief snuck inside, took the panel off the wall mounts in the Salon Carré, removed the wooden frame in a stairwell, and walked out with it under his arm. Museum guards noticed the empty space the next morning, but assumed the painting was in the museum photographer's studio. The Louvre staff routinely moved paintings without logging the changes, so no one raised the alarm until Tuesday afternoon. When the painter Louis Béroud arrived to sketch the gallery on Tuesday, August 22nd, he asked the guards where the portrait was. And this is one of the many ironic twists I absolutely love. Béroud was a copyist. He, like a lot of aspiring artists, would go to the Louvre and paint his own studies of great masterpieces. Well, in the early 20th century, the curators at the Louvre had begun putting works behind glass to protect them, and Béroud was furious because reflections on the glass made it hard to see the art. That day, he went to the museum with the intention of painting a work showing a woman staring at her own reflection in the glass in front of the Mona Lisa as a little statement about how the new policy got in the way of seeing the art. Only he couldn't make his painting about how hard it was to see the Mona Lisa because he couldn't see the Mona Lisa at all. It was gone. The guards checked in the studio, realized photographers didn't have it, and alerted the director. Police immediately locked down the entire museum, searched all 49 acres, and evacuated thousands of visitors. But by then, the thief was already miles away with the portrait hidden in his Parisian apartment. Number 2. The thief didn't have to cut through any glass or circumvent any alarm systems. He was just an ordinary handyman who took the painting off the wall and walked out with it under his cloak. Vincenzo Peruggia was an Italian glazier who had worked for a company contracted to build protective glass cases for the Louvre masterpieces. So again, a wonderful bit of irony as the piece was stolen by someone who had been hired to build protective cases for the art. Since he knew the layout and schedule of everything happening at the Louvre, Peruggia was able to just walk into the building on a Sunday afternoon wearing the standard white smock worn by other maintenance workers. He hid inside a closet until the galleries were empty. Once the area was cleared, he lifted the 200-pound framed assembly off the 4 iron hooks on the wall. Peruggia carried the artwork into the service stairwell where he used a screwdriver to remove the painted poplar wood panel from its heavy frame. He threw a smock over the 30 by 21 inch painting, walked past an unattended guard post, and just exited to the Paris streets. Peruggia later claimed he stole the painting out of patriotism, believing Napoleon Bonaparte had looted it from Italy. Now, the connection to Napoleon wasn't too far off, but Napoleon didn't take it from Italy. He took it out of the Louvre, although he did keep it in his bedroom. Really, the painting was acquired legally by King Francois I of France. He bought it directly from Leonardo da Vinci around 1518. Number 3. The painting spent 2 years hidden inside a wooden trunk in a small one-room apartment. After the theft, Peruggia carried the panel back to his one-room apartment. He wrapped the painting in a cloth and stored it inside a false bottom of a simple wooden trunk. During the international investigation, French police actually did interview Peruggia twice because his name appeared on the contractor registry. Detectives searched his room, glanced at the trunk, but they didn't find anything suspicious and moved on to other leads. Peruggia kept the masterpiece undisturbed under his bed while he waited for the investigation to cool down. He didn't attempt to sell the painting locally because really any art dealer in Europe was going to be on high alert. For 28 months, nobody imagined the man with a postcard image of the Mona Lisa on his mantle had the real thing tucked away under his tools and clothing in his apartment. Number 4. Thousands of people visited the Louvre just to view the empty hooks on the wall. When the Louvre reopened a week after the robbery, a record-breaking crowd lined up to come in. Over 100,000 people visited during the first week of reopening just to see the 4 iron hooks and a blank rectangle left behind. Famous visitors included the writer Franz Kafka and the poet Max Jacob, who joined a public vigil in the Salon Carré. Vendors outside the museum sold commemorative postcards and other souvenirs. And the international press was eating it up. They covered the disappearance relentlessly, publishing photos of the painting on the front pages of newspapers all around the world. Before 1911, the portrait was admired by art critics and historians, but not really well known by the general public. But the 2-year media circus introduced the portrait to millions of people who had never set foot in the Louvre or really any art gallery. By the time it was returned, the Mona Lisa had transitioned from a respected Renaissance work into a global pop culture icon. And our 5th and final fun fact for today. Peruggia was caught after he tried to sell the Mona Lisa to an art dealer in Florence for 500,000 lira. In 1913, Peruggia went from Paris to Florence by train, and he brought the Mona Lisa with him. He checked into a local hotel under the alias Vincenzo Leonardo. Amazing this guy did not get picked up sooner. Anyways, he sent a letter signed Leonardo to a Florentine art dealer named Alfredo Geri, offering to return the painting to Italy in exchange for a restoration fee. Geri consulted Giovanni Poggi, the director of the Uffizi Gallery, and both agreed to meet with the seller at his hotel room. On December 11th, 1913, Peruggia opened his wooden trunk and presented the Mona Lisa to Poggi and Geri. Poggi was able to recognize the wood grain patterns, the craquelure, and the museum inventory stamps on the back of the wooden panel to verify its authenticity. Poggi told Peruggia they needed to examine it at the Uffizi Gallery for final payment approval, and then contacted the Italian police. Shortly after, Peruggia was arrested at his hotel, and he served about 7 months in prison. Now for some news you can use. If you're visiting a major art museum like the Louvre, one of the best strategies is to plan your route in advance and try to get there in the early morning or late evening. Most tour groups, and visitors more generally, tend to come in the middle of the day, which causes long lines around world-class exhibits. Arriving first thing in the morning allows you to walk directly to the high-traffic rooms before the main crowds arrive. Arriving at opening time gives you clear sightlines and quiet gallery spaces to appreciate the fine brushwork and technical details. Also, researching the room numbers of the pieces you want to see and looking over a map of the space in advance will spare you the time and aggravation of getting lost in massive complexes like the Louvre, which has around 35,000 works on display. Finally, the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked, is it true police suspected Pablo Picasso in the theft of the Mona Lisa? This one's an actual fact. In September of 1911, French police detained the poet Guillaume Apollinaire, who had ties to a man named Louis Béroud. Now, Perret had previously stolen small Iberian stone statues from the Louvre and sold them to a young Pablo Picasso. Under intense police interrogation, Apollinaire implicated Picasso, leading investigators to bring the painter in front of a magistrate for questioning regarding the stolen statues and the missing Mona Lisa. While the judge found no evidence linking Picasso to the Mona Lisa theft, and he dismissed the case, the young artist spent several terrifying days believing he was facing prison. In fact, there are accounts of Picasso packing the stolen Iberian statues into suitcases with the intention of throwing them into the Seine River in the dead of night to hide the evidence, but Picasso said he just couldn't bring himself to destroy the art. Throughout the whole investigation, police were thinking about what kind of person might pull off such a bold crime, leading them down some other unexpected paths. For example, at one point, they went to a cemetery to verify that a well-known thief was in fact deceased and had been for about a decade at that point. And meanwhile, they just couldn't connect the dots between the handyman who had worked in the gallery and then abruptly stopped and the thumbprint left on the glass case. It was just inconceivable that a seemingly ordinary person could have pulled off such an extraordinary crime. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about the theft of the Mona Lisa with me today. Be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.